All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest ideas in human history, but we're going to come at it from a totally different angle. We're not asking if God exists. We're asking, how does the idea of God actually work? We could start with the question that everyone always asks. Is God real? I mean, that question has sparked endless debates, profound personal journeys, and yeah, even wars. But what if, just for today, that's not the most interesting question we could ask? What if we just set aside that whole metaphysical debate for a minute, and instead we looked at the real, tangible effects that the idea of God has right here on the ground? Okay, so let's do it. Let's ask that different question. Forget about whether God is real in some spiritual dimension. Let's talk about how the concept of God functions in our societies. And that leads us to this really cool framework. What if we look at God not as some private, internal belief, but as what sociologists call a social fact? It's a powerful idea, and trust me, it completely changes the conversation. So what on earth is a social fact? Look, this has nothing to do with proving or disproving faith. It's simply a tool that helps us see how shared ideas can have very, very real consequences in the world. To put it simply, a social fact is anything that becomes real in its effects just because a whole bunch of people agree that it's real. And once they agree, they start building their lives, their rules, their entire world around that idea. This quote right here is the perfect analogy. Think about money. A $20 bill is just a piece of printed paper, right? It has no real value on its own. But because we all agree it has value, it becomes incredibly real. You can trade it for food, for a place to live. A contract is just words on a page, but our shared belief in it, backed up by a legal system, gives it the power to bind people. That's a social fact. And this is exactly where you see the power of God as a social fact. The moment someone builds a hospital, or starts a charity, or even commits an act of violence in the name of God, that idea is no longer just a thought in their head. It has become a real force, an actor on the world stage, motivating and justifying real-world actions. To really get this, let's look at two totally different examples. First up, let's explore one of the most influential concepts of the divine ever, the God of the book. So you've got Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, often called the people of the book. They all trace their history back to Abraham, they all worship the same God, and they all believe that God's truth is captured in sacred texts. Now, if you look at Judaism and Islam in particular, the structural similarities are just incredible. In both traditions, God is seen as transcendent, meaning he exists above and beyond our physical world. And for both, there's this huge emphasis on divine law, the Torah in Judaism, Sharia in Islam, as a complete blueprint for life. The main point isn't just about having the right beliefs, it's about the right actions, what they call orthopraxy. So in this model, the social reality of God is pretty clear. He is the ultimate lawgiver. The entire society gets organized around understanding and, most importantly, obeying a detailed set of divine rules that cover pretty much everything, from prayer to business to justice. Okay, now let's do a complete 180 and look at a worldview that builds a totally different kind of social reality. When we turn to many indigenous American spiritual traditions, it's not about a single unified doctrine. Instead, you find a shared way of seeing the universe that's just a world away from that Abrahamic model we just talked about. Just listen to this powerful quote from the Lakota holy man, Lame Deer. He says, "The Great Spirit isn't like a person up in the sky. No, it's a power." And then he says, that power could be in a cup of coffee. It's not a God that's separate from the world. It's a divine force that's in everything. At the heart of this worldview is the idea that creation wasn't some one-time event that happened billions of years ago. It's a living, breathing process that's happening right now. And the result is this living universe where absolutely everything, people, animals, rivers, even rocks, are all connected in a deep kinship. We're all related. And this isn't just a nice little metaphor. This idea of kinship, called Wemitali in the Delaware Lenape language, is meant literally. I love this line from a poem by Jack D. Forbes. "I am part rock. I eat rocks. Rocks are part of me. The minerals from the earth become part of our bodies. The hard line we imagine between us and nature just vanishes." So let's put them side by side. On one hand, you have a society built around a lawgiver who is separate from the world, and the core human duty is obedience. On the other, you have a society built around a living, connected creation, and the core human response is gratitude.
two completely different social facts about the divine that lead to two completely different ways of being human.
Okay, so what's the point? Why does looking at God this way even matter? And this is really important. Using this framework is not some sneaky way to attack or undermine faith. Not at all. Think of it as a neutral tool. It just lets us step back from the endless arguments about what's true and instead ask, how does this actually function in a human society? And when we do that, we can see how different societies build their entire worlds of meaning. We get a glimpse into how moral systems are created. We can understand what holds a community together. It lets us appreciate how other cultures work without immediately judging them. It basically takes a topic that is so often about conflict and turns it into a source of genuine insight. Which brings us to one last thought to leave you with. If the idea of God can be a social fact with enough power to build civilizations, what else works that way? I mean, think about it. Things like nations, borders, corporations, even human rights, they aren't physical objects you can touch. They are powerful ideas that have very real effects, but only because we all collectively agree that they're real. So the question is, what else are we all agreeing into existence every single day?